Hello. Hello, hello. If you're just coming on, say hello. Hello, hello. Well, if it isn't Miss Mary, first as usual. Hello. I'm waiting for you guys to come up on my laptop. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Debbie. First time, huh? Mary, I had a really great visit with my daughter and grandkids and a grandson that is 4 years old, and this was the first time I ever met him in person. So it was super fun. It was super cold. But I had a really good time, and it was a much needed visit for sure. So thanks for asking. And Debbie, I'm so glad you joined me. How did you learn about me? How did you find me? That's the question. We'll wait a second for a few more people to get on, and then we'll get started. So what's going on with you guys? Mary, what's going on with you? Oh, Debbie, how nice. I'm a retailer for Dixie, Belle and Wise Owl. And I carry Would You Bend and Redesigned by Prima and decoupage tissues from Roy Cycle and decoupage tissues from Deborah Bucher Designs. Who's been down with COVID? Oh, Mary, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's no fun. So Debbie, you're a Roy Cycled gal too. That's great. She's got just the most beautiful tissues. I've got some new ones that I'm are just releasing today too. I've got a bunch more coming out, but I have a few of them on hand that I'll show later on in the video. Okay, so let's get going, you guys. I'm Deborah Bucher with Deborah Bucher Designs, and I'm on here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and I'm going to be adding another day to the week, probably starting next week. This week's already full. So, hi Nancy, good to see you guys. I'm so happy to see you guys. So, before I put the camera down, I just want to review what we're working on. We were working on this pot. It's a terracotta pot last week. Hello, hello. And I did some more work on it since last week. We had one heart on it, and we had the trim, and we had the tissue on. And I didn't like how it looked under the rim here, so I went back this afternoon and put tissue. Now you can see it doesn't have the glaze on it. So we're going to do that together. And there were a lot of places, because this clay was pretty dry. My package of clay was pretty dried out. And so there were places on here that had cracked up. And so when I was using the Dixie Belle mud in the white, when I was making the rest of the hearts on here, then I went ahead and filled in those cracks along the trim. So unless you're looking for them, I don't think they're noticeable. So if you didn't catch last week, I folded a piece of paper in half. This is like going back to kindergarten. I folded a piece of paper in half and then drew a heart and cut it out. And then I traced the heart onto a piece of cardboard to make it sturdier. And then after we tore up bits of paper out of a book last week, and I decoupaged them onto this pot. And I think sheet music would be really fun on this as well. And so then I took the hearts, and last week we did one together using the Dixie Belle mud and a palette knife. And I wanted it to have that stucco sculpture look to it. And then, like I said, today I went in and repaired some of the cracks that were on the trim. This is made out of paper clay, and I like to use creative paper clay. And I used, this is a Wise Owl mold, a trim mold that I think is super pretty. And the name of this book is The Kiss. And that was written at the top of each page. And so I cut out The Kiss and put that on each section of the pot. And you can see it doesn't have the glaze on it yet, but we're going to go back and re-glaze, so it doesn't matter, because I need to glaze up here around the rim where I added. So that's where we're at so far. So I'm going to put the camera down. I just wanted to catch you up on where we were at, what had been done, and if you weren't here last week, that should be helpful to you also. So let me put the camera down. Okay, so it looks like I have you guys in, and I dried this with the dryer, so all my little hearts are okay. They're not gonna crack up on us. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Dixie Belle Buttercream. I decided, I've gone all over the place last week on what color, because I was thinking I was going to do the hearts red, and I do think that that would be pretty with the hearts done red with the paper, antique paper background. And you could do your trim red, but I decided that I was going to keep it kind of monotoned, and so I'm using Buttercream, which is one of my favorite colors. Do I have it in the camera? There. I tell you, when you flip this camera around, it's hard to get it in the camera. There, I think I have it. Okay, Buttercream, you guys. I was also debating about using drop cloth. I think that would be really pretty, but you know what? Any color you choose is going to be pretty on this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Buttercream, and I'm sure, because I haven't used it in a while, I'm going to give it a good stir. That is, if I can get the jar open, you guys. Yep, there it goes. One of the things that I've stopped doing in the last year is shaking up my paint, because all that does is gunk up your lid, and it gunks up your jar, and it does make it hard to open and close it. So I recommend, instead of doing that with your jars of paint, that you actually just get a popsicle stick and just stir it up really good. And so that's what I'm going to do. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to paint the hearts with the buttercream, and I'm going to paint the trim up here that I did with the paper clay. And that's on last week's video. It's still up on Facebook, and I'll get it up on YouTube tomorrow. And speaking of YouTube, you guys, I work really hard trying to build my YouTube channel. And so if you haven't already gone over to YouTube and subscribed, I would love it if you would do that for me. I do put some content up there that hasn't been on Facebook, and I intend to do more of that this year. So let me just find what brush I want to use for this. I think this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the hearts with the buttercream and the trim with the buttercream. And that's probably really hard for you guys to even see. The buttercream isn't white, but in this bright light, it does take on white. Oh, it looks like I can see a little bit of the cream color coming through. And if you guys have questions, go ahead and ask, and I'll get to them in just a minute. So Mary, I'm so sorry you guys were sick with COVID. It was nice on my flight both to and from Boise that the plane wasn't even half full either time. When I woke up Wednesday morning, that was the date that all the flights had been grounded, and I was like, oh, for goodness sakes, what a crummy day for that to happen. And I didn't even know if I was going to get to go on the trip, but I checked, and the flight that I was booked on was not canceled. When I got to the airport, they said the plane was half full, and they reassigned all of our seats to redistribute the weight. So everybody literally had a seat and a row to themselves, unless you were traveling with somebody. So it was a very comfortable flight. And it was the same thing coming back. And then coming back, my daughter had booked me first class, so that was pretty awesome. So it was a very comfortable flight. And it was nice that I wasn't sitting next to strangers, because, you know, when you're flying, at least for me, that's what I'm always thinking about, is the germs and the COVID, and the world's never going to be the same. Okay, so I know that this is probably hard to tell that I'm actually painting this. But I'm going to go back and put the Dick Van Dyke Glaze, and I want to put it back over the paper. The paper, I added to it up here on the rim, which you can probably see here. And then I added on the kiss. And when I did all of that, I gave it another coat of satin top coat. So it's been sealed. And then I'm painting the buttercream on, but I'm going to go over the whole piece with the Van Dyke glaze. And while I was in Boise, you guys, I went to Hobby Lobby, I went to Michael's, we bought jelly plates, we did arts and crafts, we had a good time. And while I was there, I actually did look, because I decided I wanted to put a topiary in this pot, and I looked at Hobby Lobby and they didn't have any topiaries. They didn't even have the balls to make your own topiary. So I'll have to look here. And if you guys have any good suggestions of where to find one besides Michael's or Hobby Lobby, let me know. And if you've ever made your own topiary, I never have. And I've seen some videos and they always say they got everything at the Dollar Tree, but I was at the Dollar Tree last week and what a wreck that place was. They hardly had anything I was looking for, and nobody was working, and it was just the biggest mess, and that was normally a pretty nice store. Okay, so those are, all the hearts are painted with one coat, and I think that's all I'm going to need on it. So I'm going to set that down for a second and check your comments. Well, I'm glad you're getting better. Hi, Lisa. Okay, will you catch the replay? Thanks for joining this. Hi, Jan. I know, it's been a super long time. Glad to see you. Hello, my friend Nancy. Okay, well, you guys aren't being too chatty. So before I mess up those hearts, I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick dry. I love this heat gun. It's made by Ranger, and I love that it's so quiet. And it's not a hair dryer, it's actually a heat gun. I'm really, really in love with this pot. It's just funny how things go. And you guys, I also have, stay till the end because I have some new decoupage tissue for Valentine's Day and for Easter that just came in the mail yesterday, so I'm excited to share it with you. And I was working on new designs yesterday. Okay. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint the trim that we put on. And there's still a few little cracks in it, but I don't care. I just think I went and repaired some of the major ones that were on here, but I just think it gives it a little bit of age and character, and I don't really care. It's not going to bother me one little bit. And if my clay had been a fresh package of clay, I doubt that it would have cracked as much as it did, because my clay was pretty dry. But it didn't matter. I just used the Dixie Belle mud and just filled in those cracks. So, and I'm painting up to the top of this rim on here just to make it look more uniform. So I'm just painting the trim. I'm painting down to the edge where I put the paper on. And because this color is so similar to the paper color, it's a little tricky to see where I've painted and where I haven't painted. I'll know when I put the glaze on, it'll show. It will grab more where I have actually painted. Yeah, Pamela, I was in Boise, Idaho. I have a daughter that lives there. I have a daughter that lives here in Arizona. And then I have a daughter and her family and children all live in Boise, Idaho. It was very cold. They all wanted to go tubing, which I was not excited about. And so we did other things. I didn't have appropriate clothes to go tubing, and they didn't have extra gear. So I was really glad, because I don't like the cold. That's why I live in Arizona. So Pamela, I'm sorry, what do you put in Ziploc bags and in the refrigerator? I don't know what you're referring to. I should say, since I don't know what you're referring to, but I should say that when you're done with your mud, your Dixie Belle mud, you do need to refrigerate it when you're finished. And I've had the same jar of Dixie Belle mud now for over a year, maybe even longer, and I've used it for lots of projects. And it's great when you have a piece of furniture that has a chip and needs repair. I also use it if I'm changing out the hardware on furniture. I fill in where the hardware originally was with the mud. It dries super hard. And like I said, I used it to sculpt these little hearts. And if you didn't see last week's video when I did the hearts, you can go back and watch it. I was just trying to get a few steps out of the way today so that we could hopefully get this finished together. I don't often do part twos of videos, but last week when I was working on this, everybody said they would like to see it together finished up this week. So I was more than happy to do that. It made it really easy for me, especially having been out of town, to already have a project going. And if I'm missing spots on here, I think I'll go back around and give it I'm going to dry it and then go back around and give it another quick coat just to be sure, because the color is so similar to the color of the clay. that it's really hard to tell if I've missed any spots, but when I go to put the glaze on, I'll see those places for sure. Oh, Pamela, I'm glad you love it. Hi, Sue. I'm glad you guys love it. It's such a simple project, but and it's evolved a couple of times. You know, like I always tell people, when you're painting furniture, let the furniture talk to you and tell you what you want. And so I had an idea of how I was going to do this, but it's kind of evolved on its own. Originally, I wanted to fill the pot with red geraniums, and last week I went to Hobby Lobby and to Michael's and to the dollar store and couldn't find any red geraniums. And then when I was working on it last week, I thought, ooh, a pretty green topiary would be pretty in this pot. Okay, I'm going to take the dryer and give it a quick little dry, and then go back and give it another quick coat. The second coat will go super fast. I'm going to put it on the stand here. And I need to, before I do that, I need to get this top. Then when I got home, and it rained here the whole day yesterday, and then rained real heavy last night, I was in bed and thought, man, that sounds like it's raining really hard. And I got up and checked, and it was. Had a lot of weather this year. My daughter, the one that lives here, she was up at the cabin. It was the girls' weekend up at the cabin, and they almost got snowed in. She had to come home through Salt River Canyon, which is a way that I haven't driven through Salt River Canyon in 20 years. And it took several extra hours to get home. They had a lot of snow up there at the cabin. That is so pretty, you guys. I'm loving it. Yeah, Pamela, I think a floral topiary would be pretty too. Especially since the pot itself is so neutral. So I know you can see me just spinning it around, but I actually have the hair dryer on it drying it. So as I'm looking at it, you guys tell me what you think, because as I'm looking at it, I know for sure I'm going to put more of the Van Dyke glaze over the paper decoupage, but maybe I'll leave the hearts unglazed. I don't know. If I put glaze on them, then all the detail on the hearts are going to show up really well. And I'm going to put the glaze for sure on the trim, so all that detail pops out on the trim, and then I'm going to use gilding wax on the trim. I just don't know about the hearts. I'm kind of leaning towards leaving the hearts just the buttercream color. So you guys tell me what you think. Okay, I'm going to give it another really quick coat. The mud is also really great for doing raised stencils. So if that's something that you guys like to do, the mud is really good for that. And how funny it was that the name of this book was The Kiss. It's one of those, oh, what is her name? She's one of those risque authors, Danielle Steele. So, you know, you kind of have to be careful when you're decoupaging with her book, which is obviously not her intent when she's writing it. But, you know, you don't want to have any of her steamy stuff popping out on your flower pot. So, or maybe you do. So does anybody have any questions so far? One more heart. Okay, that's it for the hearts. And then we'll go back over the trim. And I'm just going to see if you have questions. Yeah, I think you're right, Debbie. Hi, Marjorie. Yeah, it's just like furniture. You just have to let it talk to you and tell you what's going to work as you go along. It's been really fun, you guys. I did a lot more crafting over Christmas and the months leading up to Christmas than I've been able to do in a lot of years, because the previous 2 years I was busy getting ready for pinners, and then after pinners was over, I was like over it myself. So this year, of course, I didn't do pinners, thankfully, and I just got to really enjoy the whole holiday, making gifts and doing crafting and getting my house decorated, and it was just super nice, the way Christmas is supposed to be. And I was really kind of sad when It was all over with. I could go another month. And Valentine's is going to be here and gone before we know it. I mean, we're already halfway through January. It's crazy. Okay, by putting on this second coat, hopefully if I missed any spots the first time around, hopefully I've got them the second time around. And if you guys have any terracotta pots laying around, you can just repurpose one. That's what I did last week. I just went out into the garden and I have lots of pots. Just picked one up, cleaned it up, said, okay, this is getting painted. Okay, and I'm just going to go around that rim one more time. Now, you guys, if I was going to put a live plant in this, and I still could, but I would put a liner inside here so that the water wasn't soaking through into the terracotta. Because it is decoupaged and it's decoupaged with paper. So you can either put an artificial plant in it, or if you want a live plant, just put a plastic liner on the inside to catch the water so that it's not soaking into the clay. Okay, so that's done. I think we're done with the buttercream. Get my lid screwed on tight so my paint doesn't dry out. A mossy green would be pretty on this. I can't get that thing to start screwing on straight. It's because it's got so much dried paint in it. This was when I was still shaking up jars. There, I think I got it. All right, let's give it another quick dry. Pamela, I have sealed it so far I've used Dixie Belle satin top coat on it to seal it, but clay is porous, and so you would have to get some waterproofing sealer for the inside of your terracotta clay if you wanted to make it waterproof so it wouldn't soak to the outside, because we've decoupaged it with paper and we've used paper clay for the trim around the rim, and so if water from the inside was repeatedly seeping through the pot, which it would, that would eventually break down the paper and the clay. So it's really, for all intents purposes, just a decorative piece and not a functional flower pot, unless, like I said, you get, you know, you can get those plastic liners that will go inside your pots, and that would work. Okay, so we've dried it, and now I'm going to use the Dixie Belle Van Dyke glaze, and I love this glaze. Do I have it in the camera? Yep, there it is. The Van Dyke glaze. And you need to have a baby wipe when you're using that. And I know I have some, you know, I clean things up, and when I clean things up, then I can't find anything. Where did they go? I used them last week. That's crazy, you guys. Oh, there they are. Okay. They're drying out. I need to get another package. Just dampen this one up. And then we'll need to stir this glaze. It kind of separates, so you always need to really stir it up well. Last week I just thought it was because I hadn't used it in a while, but I just used this last week and it's already separated back out again. So just stir it up really good till you don't see any of that milky. I've decoupaged pots before. I have quite a few of them. I love to decoupage, you guys. And so, you know, just about any surface I can find to decoupage on, I will. And a year or two ago, I did some lives on decoupaging pots. And I do have a pattern that, I don't know what size the pots were. They were smaller than this one. But I do have a pattern that you can just lay out on your decoupage tissue, and then it'll wind around your pot just perfectly. I'd have to look to see what size pot that pattern was for. Okay, so let's get another brush here. That looks like a good one. Okay, you guys, here's the fun. So I'm going to start down here on the bottom because I wanted to give it another coat, and I wanted to get up here on the top where I just added that on. So I'm going to just do a section at a time, and I'm not going to go over the heart unless we decide later to do that. And I just love how this looks on paper. And so far, I really like the contrast of that heart. And so I just have my damp baby wipe, and when you just do a section at a time, it makes it really easy to wipe that back. And when I was decoupaging the kiss on and around the rim, I went back and put another coat of satin top coat on. So that also makes it really easy to wipe that glaze off. Gives you control of how much you want to leave on and how much you want to take off. And again, just do a section at a time. Because I've got that satin top coat on there, it does wipe back real easy. If I hadn't done that, it would really grab onto that paper and not wipe off as well. Do you guys love this glaze? Dixie Belle has another glaze that's gray. I'm kind of having a brain fart at the moment. Oh, it's called grunge gray. And that's a really pretty one too. The glazes are just a really nice way to kind of like antique things. Age them up a little bit. And it kind of catches, I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but it kind of catches around where the paper's been torn. And that's a really nice look. Now, if I decide to paint the hearts, right now I'm thinking I like them just the way they are, but if I decide I want to paint the hearts, then I need to go back over it with a satin top coat on top of the hearts so that it wipes away easily and you just leave on the amount that you want. And if you want to watch the first half of this, then that was last week's video. So you just have to go back to last week, and I will get it up on YouTube tomorrow. So you guys, I'm going to have to put some satin top coat up here on the trim before I go up here with the glaze. And then I'm going to use some gilding wax, and I love gilding wax. And I have bronze and copper and gold. What do you think I should use? I'm kind of leaning towards the bronze. Cool. What do you guys think? I'm loving it. Okay, so I have a little bit of satin top coat poured off into this little container, and I can just put a lid on it, and that works really well, you guys. So I'm just going to go around and put some satin top coat around this rim real quick. And the purpose of this, you guys, is to just make that glaze sit on top of the satin top coat. So again, just like it did on the paper, it gives me control of how much I want to leave on and how much I want to take off. And this is also what I used for decoupage. I always use the satin top coat when I'm decoupaging. I never use Mod Podge. Mod Podge will crack and yellow over time. And if you put a lot of work into something, and a lot of our decoupage projects, we have put a lot of work into them, and you want them to hold up over the years. So I'm not having to be careful. It's transparent. I'm just working it down into the details on here. Whoops. Just get the top of that rim. Pretty. It's pretty if I say so myself. Let me see if you've got questions. Thanks, Marjorie. Thank you so much, you guys. Okay, so I want to give it another quick dry. I'm going to put it back on the turntable. That makes it easier to dry it. Does anybody have any questions? So I'm going to start trying to add another live video every week, and I'm thinking, you know, I always come here on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock, and I'm thinking at this point, starting next week, that I'm going to try to do Wednesdays at 4 o'clock. So it'd be Tuesday and Wednesday at 4 o'clock. And that's Mountain Standard Time. So that's what I'm looking at right now. And we're going to mix it up and do furniture and crafts. I have a lot of furniture pieces I need to get working on. I did all crafts all through Christmas. It was super fun. But I've got some furniture pieces that'll be really fun too. Got a few stubborn spots here that are still a little wet. Yeah, Mary, I am going to be super busy. I've been advised by a few people that I admire and trust, and they told me I need to be going live 2 or 3 times a week, and I'm like, oh, good Lord. It's hard enough for me just to get 1 live a week done, but I think they're right. In order to build and grow my business, I think they're right. So that's one of my goals for 2023 is I'm aiming for adding another one, and we'll see if I can work a 3rd one in there. But I don't dilly-dally, you guys. I'm working 7 days a week, a minimum of 8 hours a day. Because there's, you know, there's social media, there's posting up on Facebook and Pinterest and YouTube and Instagram, and, you know, then I'm designing decoupage tissues, and I don't dilly-dally. Okay, so I think I got that dried pretty well. And now I'm going to put the glaze up here in the detail. I'm going to give it a little stir again. And again, I'm just going to do a section at a time and wipe it back. And it's important to get it in all the nooks and crannies. All that fun detail that's on here. And so do a section and then wipe it back. And you can wipe it back as much as you want. If you take too much back, just add more on it. Isn't that pretty, you guys? Glaze is so much fun. And it's so easy. And right now, I'm really glad I left the hearts, the buttercream. So you guys, if you have felt like this was informative and a fun and useful video, I would love it if you would sprinkle it around. Mary, do you think you should get your girlfriends together again and do another pot project? I do private parties, you guys. So if you've got a group of girlfriends and you live here in Arizona locally and you want to pick a project and have all your girlfriends do it, I do private parties. They're always super fun because when you get a group of girlfriends together, that's always really fun. Okay, we're almost around, and then I'm going to get some gilding wax to put on here. And I think I will go with the bronze. Mary, are all your girlfriends back in town right now? Those canvas bags that I made at Christmas time, those were really, really popular, and that's a fun class. And you know, you could do one for Easter. Doesn't have to be Christmas. There's all kinds of like everyday designs that aren't any holiday specific. Those were really fun to do. Okay. I love that, you guys. It's pretty just like it is without putting the gilding wax on, but the gilding wax is just going to take it to the next step. I am really happy with this. You know, sometimes you get a good idea or you think it's a good idea and then it just doesn't quite execute the way you thought. But I'm really happy with this one. And it wasn't an expensive project. You know, I had the pot. I already had the mud. And it's just paper out of a book. Okay, let me grab my gilding wax here. Here's the bronze. Let's see. Have you guys used gilding wax before? Dixie Belle has some really pretty colors. So this is the bronze gilding wax. I guess it needs to go this way. I'm always going the wrong way. I put it so that it's always backwards for me so that things are going the right direction for you guys. Now, you can use a good stiff brush to apply gilding wax. Like this is a nice stiff brush right here. Let me see if that's in camera. It's a stiff bristle. Or you can use your fingers. I do both. I'm going to start off with trying the brush and see how that works out. So I don't know if bronze is really the best. I might switch over to copper. What do you guys think? It just kind of looks, I thought it would be more contrast, but that's not contrasting enough. Let me try the copper. Okay, so this is the copper. It's a pretty color. I love copper. So we'll try that. Yeah, I like that better. So you can either use a nice stiff brush and you just want to go over the highlights. You don't want to scrub it down. Or you can also use your fingers. Let's see. I need to get a palette knife and get some of this out. It's getting a little deep for me to stick my fingers in. So you can get some on your fingertip like this. And then you just rub it on the surface. And actually that's working better than using the brush. And I think the copper's gorgeous. So you guys, you can see layers here. You can see the buttercream underneath. You can see the Van Dyke glaze. And now you're getting a third layer of texture and dimension by adding the gilding wax on. Well, Mary, the last friend just getting in town, I'd say they just got here in the nick of time. They're probably wondering what in the world they're here with all of this rain we've had this year. But I'm sure that's better than being back east in the snow. And as you rub your fingers over it, it just kind of burnishes it, brings out that shine on it, and then I'm going to just rub it around the edge of it. Now, if you didn't tell your friend that you made this pot, they'd think that you bought this in an expensive store, because this looks like an expensive pot. There. You guys, it's all done. And now all I have to do is find a pretty topiary tree or make a pretty topiary. I'd like to make it. I've never made a topiary. It can't be that hard. And you guys, if you wanted to, you could take the buttercream and just paint the bottom down here just so that everything, this is, it's either fluff or cotton, I can't remember, because I wanted a nice white background for the decoupage on there. And then this is buttercream. I'm really happy with it, you guys. I think it turned out really pretty. And it's interesting because I'm looking on my monitor and it's really prettier in person than it shows on the monitor. That copper's super pretty on there. So that's awesome. So that's done, you guys. And I want to show you real quick before we say goodbye to each other. I'm going to close up that gilding wax. And you guys, I have all of these products for sale. Everything that we've used on this pot, I have for sale on my website. And that's www.deborahbucherdesigns.com. And I'm going to bring the camera up so I can show you the new decoupage tissues. There's only 4 of them so far, so it won't take long in case this is getting to be your dinner hour. I bet they are all glad to be here. Okay, you guys, so starting off with the new Easter tissue. I think this is so stinking cute, I can hardly stand it. So it has the pink border with a buffalo check on it. And then it's got bunnies and flowers with eggs and little chicks and lambs and more eggs. You can do such a cute collage with this. And it comes in pinks and blues. There's some cotton branches. I can hardly wait to do a project with this. I'm super, super excited about how this tissue turned out. And then I did a companion tissue that's just the pink buffalo check. You know, I didn't open it up. It's 20 by 30, just like the other tissues are, but the whole sheet is buffalo check. And then I did one that's just a pretty Easter pattern. Just plain, doesn't have any bunnies but it's kind of a turquoise blue color. And then I love, love, love this one. This is a project sheet, and there's 4 designs on this one. So there's this golden red tapestry, and then there's another red and gold design. I don't know if I'm getting the whole thing in the camera or not. And then there's a red harlequin pattern that's it's kind of hard to see it Am I holding it up enough? There. So the Harlequin is very faded and isn't really obvious. And then there's another tapestry pattern that is like a dusty rose color. So that's what I've got so far, but I've got more coming. These came the day I got home, so that was great. And they're all up on my website, you guys. So if you're interested in any of those, I just have a few on hand and there'll be more. So if you are interested, you can go ahead and pre-order for it. Hi, Shauna. Nice to see you. Marjorie, thank you so much. I was super excited. It's always like Christmas to me when new tissues, because I design them. I designed them when I was up at the cabin over Christmas and sent them off to get printed. And like I said, they just came on Sunday when I got home. And it's just like Christmas, opening them up and seeing what I've got and what they really look like in person instead of on a computer screen. So that's it, you guys. I'm really happy with how the pot turned out. And I appreciate so much you guys joining me. Thanks for the hearts. And if you think this was a project that somebody else would enjoy learning how to do, then do me a favor and sprinkle this around. Thanks, Mary. I kind of like it myself. I really do. And I have to honestly say, it's much prettier in person than it's showing up on my computer screen. And see where it says the kiss? That just cracks me up. All right, you guys. So that's it. Again, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week on Tuesday at 4 p.m. You guys have a great evening. Bye.